The tremor traveled upward through the exposed pipes, causing the fixture's copper wiring to sway slightly and cast shifting shadows across the walls. It started as a steady, mechanical drone, the kind of heavy oscillation you might expect from a failing industrial furnace. But as the seconds bled out, the frequency shifted, fracturing into a rhythm that unmistakably mirrored the structure of human phonemes. Something was speaking. According to the initial intake logs of Richland County Police Department File Case 89-041, the homeowner was completely alone when the disturbance began. The scene he left behind was perfectly, terribly ordinary. A lukewarm, half-empty mug of Maxwell House coffee sat abandoned on an unpainted pine workbench, a stark residue of a quiet suburban night that had just fractured without warning. Initially, the human mind attempts to impose logical order on anomaly. He assumed the heavy vibration radiating beneath his boots was merely a seized motor in the HVAC compressor, an architectural flaw sending shockwaves through the floorboards. Seeking the source of the mechanical failure, he knelt by the rusted iron grate of the drainage pit and pressed his bare palm flat against the damp concrete. The tremor pulsing against his skin was not the uniform rotation of a broken machine. It was irregular and distinctly organic. The floor was reverberating with the heavy, uneven cadence of respiration. Facing an obscure impossibility echoing from beneath the poured slab, he made a purely logical, yet deeply terrifying decision. He resolved to return to that basement the following night, bringing an analog tape recorder down into the dark to document whatever was breathing under his house. He descended the wooden stairs the following evening, carrying the considerable weight of an analog Sony TC377 reel-to-reel tape recorder. The space was devoid of light, illuminated only by the faint glow of the machine's VU meters as he placed the heavy chassis directly onto the damp floor. He threaded the magnetic tape and set the recording speed to exactly 3.75 inches per second, prioritizing low-frequency acoustic fidelity over high-end clarity. He sat motionless on a metal folding chair in the pitch black, watching the spools slowly turn, waiting for the silence to break. The resulting 42-minute audio reel captured something far more disturbing than the settling of suburban Earth. When the physical tape was later processed through spectral analysis, technicians isolated an intense infrasound acoustic spike measured at precisely 18.2 Hz. This specific frequency exists just below the threshold of human hearing, registering as a heavy physical pressure in the chest cavity rather than a distinct noise in the ear. By filtering the ambient static and elevating the gain on that isolated track, the raw data yielded a deeply unsettling phonetic pattern. It was a raspy, labored vocalization, dragging against the harsh grain of the magnetic tape to slowly repeat the homeowner's middle name, Thorne. The recording existed. Faced with undeniable empirical proof of an anomaly residing directly beneath his boots, he could no longer live above that obscure echo. He hired a heavy drilling crew the very next morning to shatter the 6 inches of poured concrete slab on his basement floor. The industrial jackhammers tore through the basement floor, kicking up a suffocating cloud of pulverized cement that coated the unpainted pine workbench and the exposed copper pipes in a fine gray residue. Beneath 6 inches of poured concrete, the heavy steel bits struck hollow dirt, releasing a sudden heavy odor of damp soil and stagnant air into the confined space. The drilling crew meticulously cleared away the loose rubble, peeling back the earth to expose a dark, perfectly circular void. There, lying dormant exactly 4 feet beneath the modern foundation, they unearthed a beautifully preserved 19th-century brick cistern. The structure was intact. Forensic acoustic engineers later determined that this cavernous architectural anomaly was acting as a massive subterranean resonance chamber. Its spherical geometry meant that any low-frequency vibration generated below ground would be caught, concentrated, and projected upward into the modern dwelling. The unearthing of a 19th-century brick cistern acting as a perfect acoustic resonator explains how the sound permeated the floorboards, but leaves the origin of the vocalization chillingly unverified. As the crew lowered halogen work lights into the dark, sweeping the stark beams across the curved brick walls and the packed dirt floor, they illuminated a far more disturbing reality. The chamber was empty. There was no trapped air pocket, no collapsed sewer main, and no physical mechanism present that could have generated the raspy, rhythmic syllables captured on that magnetic tape. The physical file proves only that an anomaly occurred, documenting an undeniable acoustic reality that logic simply cannot erase. The cistern remains open to the damp earth. The house remains sold to oblivious new owners, and the 42-minute audio reel remains secured in a county evidence locker, still whispering a name to a room that has no one left to listen. Until next time, keep your archives closed.